From the NewsChannel 5 network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm NewsChannel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. Nashville's Metro Council begins its budget season in the next few weeks. Last year, with the pandemic, the aftermath of a deadly tornado, social justice concerns that led to protests and a riot downtown, and a 34% property tax increase, things were quite tumultuous. What will this spring bring as the council seeks to approve a new budget and a property tax rate by the end of June? One person who will be playing a leadership role in all that will be 2nd District Councilmember Kwon Tay Toombs. She is the chair of the council's Budget and Finance Committee. She's also our guest on Inside Politics this week. Council Lady Toombs, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Pat.
People still ask me about last year's tax hike. I suspect they still ask you about it too. The issue came up in the news again recently. In recent days, Mayor John Cooper made the rounds of Nashville's television stations and other local media. He making comments that some interpreted to mean that he was going to roll back the 34% tax hike in this year's coming property tax rate. It appears to have created some confusion. You can't really roll back a property tax rate now that the taxes have already been paid.
Correct. I think the intent of Mayor Cooper's remarks was to explain what happens in a reappraisal year. So when you've had positive growth in property values, and then there's the state requirement that the certified tax rate be revenue neutral, the natural result of that is that the tax rate comes down. So I think that's what he was trying to explain. The tax rate that we set for fiscal year 21, that's already happened, and people have paid their taxes, so that's not getting rolled back. Looking forward to fiscal year 22, the council will once again have to decide what the tax rate is going to be. And like I said, the natural consequence typically in a reappraisal year when property values have gone up is that tax rate, that certified tax rate will go down. And so council will have to decide whether or not we're going to adopt that certified tax rate as the official tax rate for the city or make some type of adjustment to it.
Perhaps adding to the confusion, there's a continuing effort through a petition drive to call a special election to change the Metro Charter to repeal that 34% property tax hike and also to limit future tax increases along with some other changes in the Metro government charter. Can the public can't really under state law either repeal a tax increase or actually set property tax rates, can they?
No, they can't. State law says that the local governing body sets the property tax rate. So no, that's not, that violates state law.
As you mentioned, the tax rate is set every year by the council. Some years it stays the same if there's not a property tax increase requested. This year it has to go down probably because of the reappraisal, because we've had quite a bit of growth over the last 4 years. So do you think the council is likely to accept the new certified rate, although we don't know what that's going to be? Is it the state law does allow you to take that rate back up after that if you want to capture some more of that growth? Does the council have the stomach for what would be another tax increase?
You know, honestly, I don't know. I'm just one council person out of 40. I know that there is I think there's a consensus within the council to provide some relief to taxpayers. I think that what's largely going to determine whether or not there's some type of adjustment upward of that certified tax rate is what our revenues are looking like. So we're anxiously awaiting the revenue projection from our finance director. And also we'll probably look to him for guidance in regard to, if we leave the certified tax rate the way it is, will we be okay financially going forward as a city? And I think that if the consensus is that we'll be fine financially going forward, that there probably won't be much of an appetite to raise that rate. You have to also take into account that we're expecting a significant amount of federal funds through the American Rescue Plan. So that's going to be a great assistance to the city and factor into not necessarily how we do our operating budget, but factor into how we set our priorities and how comfortable we feel with the certified tax rate.
Another thing that makes this kind of complicated is that not one size fits all. When the tax rate has gone down, it will go down according to what the average has been across the county. But in some districts, and this may include your district, parts of your district probably have had quite a bit of infill, even gentrification going on. So you had a lot of increase in property values there. Other parts of the community, even in some well-heeled areas, parts of town, haven't had as much growth in their property tax values. So therefore, some folks who saw a great deal of growth, if it's above the average, they may get a property tax increase even with the rate going down.
So that's true. So let's say your average increase in growth across the county is 30%. So if you're in an area of town that the average growth was less than that 30%, you could see your property tax bill go down. If you're in an area of town where the growth was roughly that 30%, your property tax bill is probably going to stay the same. If you're in an area of town that's, just really booming and it's over that county average, you're going to see your property tax bill go up. And that's just the consequence of having significant growth.
Sometime in the next couple of weeks, everybody in the county that owns a piece of property is going to get a letter from the property assessor that's going to tell them what their new value is. If they don't like that value, if they think it's too high, they have a way of being able to appeal it. Explain that process.
So that's probably more so in the lane of the property assessor, and if you go to the property assessor's website, there is an outline of how that process works. You do start with appealing it directly to the assessor's office, but I will leave that to the property assessor to go through the specifics of the process. But if you call the assessor's office or go to their website, there is the specifics of that program outlined on there as far as how to go about appealing the assessment of your property. If you don't like the value that you get in that letter, you can appeal it.
Back before you were elected 4 years ago, after the last reappraisal, the council did adjust the property tax rate downward and left it there. At that time, they wanted to have what they would call the lowest property tax rate ever in Davidson County, and they achieved that. But also after that, the city began to have problems almost every year with their operating budget, not quite having the revenues they thought they ought to have. So that's one of the things you're going to have to look at when you look at what the certified rate is going to be and whether that's going to be enough, right?
Absolutely. So we did get into a situation. I don't think that folks thought that Nashville would grow so quickly. Obviously, plans were put in place to grow us into being the IT city, and it seems like almost overnight we were the IT city. And so revenues were not keeping up with the growth of the city. And so in this particular reappraisal year, we want to make sure that our revenues are going to keep up with the growth of the city. And so once again, leaning to the advice of the finance director who does those revenue projections, if we leave the certified tax rate as is, are we going to be able to keep up with the growth of the city? Because we don't want to have a repeat of the past where our expenses were outpacing revenue.
Metro Councilmember Kwon Tay Toombs is our guest. She's the chair of the council's budget and Metro Council's Budget and Finance Committee. The council's beginning its budget process again in the next couple of weeks. Back to continue our conversation with the council lady after this break.